Hi, I'm Kelsey from Coaching with Kelsey, and today we're going to talk about chronic worrying. So, before we jump in, let's define what worry is. Worry is a state of anxiety and uncertainty over actual or potential problems. In small doses, worry can be useful, right? Like if you are worried about getting in a car accident, and you stop it at that, you might then be more likely to wear your seatbelt. Or if perhaps you are worried about an interaction you had and you stop it there, you might ask the other person, hey, what did you think of that conversation we had? Or I was worried that you might be upset with me. Can we talk about it? That can be useful. A lot of us don't stop at that, right? What tends to happen is rather than have a worry and then pause and solve for that worry, we go into a worry spiral. So, what does a worry spiral look like? Honestly, I probably don't need to tell you because you've probably experienced one before, but in case you haven't, let me kind of lay it out for you. When I think of a spiral, think of like two different things. I think of like a slide where you kind of start at the top, and then when you push yourself down, the momentum carries and you just keep going, like against your free will, even unless maybe you put your hands up against the sides, which is possible with worrying and in a slide. But I also think of like a tornado, right? Like it sucks things up and it spirals and spins them around. So that's kind of what a worry spiral is like. When we worry, we're basically like telling ourselves a story, right? We're making up a situation in order to sort of explore what might happen. So when you go into a worry spiral, you tell a story, and then that story connects to another story, connects to another story. All of these different avenues of how things could potentially go wrong. And that's really what the major difference is between a potentially useful worry and a worry spiral, right? A useful worry is going to be something that we have the thought, we may feel worried, and then we choose to act on that. We're worried about potentially getting into a car accident, so we buckle our seatbelt. We're worried that a conversation didn't go the way that we wanted to, so we address the situation with the other person. Versus a worry spiral, which, at its worst case, could lead you maybe to not drive, not get in your car, because you're so worried about, like whatever the different stories are that you tell yourself, right? Maybe you tell yourself that you're going to hit someone else, or maybe you're worried that someone else is going to hit you. All these unexpected things that could happen. The difference between the two is that one, you move forward, and the other, you stay stuck. The thing is, because when we worry, we often go to the worst case scenario. Like 99% of the time, those worries don't actually happen, right? But because of that, our brain does this funny thing, because it's like, oh, the worry that we had didn't actually come true. Maybe it's because we were worrying about it. That is how chronic worrying becomes a coping mechanism that we turn to over and over again. Because ultimately, when the thing we're worried about doesn't come to fruition, we're left at the end of that cycle feeling like safe, like everything turned out okay. And if we associate the chronic worrying with the safety, we will turn to chronic worrying whenever anything goes wrong, regardless of the fact that there is no correlation between the worry and the outcome. Now, as with most coping mechanisms, there was probably a time in your life where chronic worrying was all you had. And so it was, in certain ways, useful for you. It was something you needed. But now maybe you're at a point in your life where it's no longer serving you. There are other options for you that you're maybe learning, and you're still having trouble letting go of the chronic worrying. The first step, as with most things, is to just start bringing awareness to the worry spiral. And maybe that's just where you start and stay for a little while. Start noticing what it feels like when you go into a worry spiral. What does it look like? What does it sound like in your head? Like, what are you saying to yourself? Because there are going to be patterns, and when you start noticing the patterns, it's going to be so much easier for you to identify what's happening to you. The next thing is going to be to start understanding the difference between disempowering questions and empowering questions. And what I mean by that is that a lot of times we will ask ourselves disempowering questions, like, this is just the example that I tend to go to, like when you have sort of rhetorical thought in your head, like, what's wrong with me, right? Your brain is designed to want to answer that question for you. So when you ask yourself disempowering questions, your brain will come up with disempowering answers. And a lot of that is what is happening when we're going into a worry spiral. So one, like being able to identify the disempowering questions we are asking ourselves, and then being able to start consciously asking ourselves empowering questions. So for the example that I gave of the disempowering question, what's wrong with me? The empowering version of that might be, what am I proud of today? What do I like about myself? Other options might be, what is within my control? How can I accept what is? How can I work to process the feelings I'm experiencing? When you ask yourself these questions, you might be surprised what you come up with. Like the empowering questions that we ask ourselves can help us access that unconditional self-love that we're struggling to get to. And we can start to form new coping mechanisms, healthier coping mechanisms, mechanisms that serve us better in the life we're living today. That's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. It really means a lot to me. And if you found this video to be helpful, or you have any thoughts that you want to share, please do so. I love it when you guys comment and tell me what you think. And if any of this really spoke to you and you're interested in working with me, shoot me a message or go to the link in my bio on Instagram and we can set up a free consultation for you. I can tell you a little bit more about my relationship revitalization program. So again, thank you so much, and we'll talk again soon.